anxiety, depression, numbness through poison. These are not mysteries. They are the natural responses of a mind that sees the truth. You are vulnerable. You will die. And every single day you are reminded that the world is sharp, merciless, and indifferent. The real mystery is not why people break down. It is why more don't. Because if you're awake, if you're truly conscious, then you see it. Life has given you every reason to collapse. Yet somehow, some rise. Somehow some keep walking. And that is the dividing line. The reality of fear. Fear is not an illusion. It is not weakness. It is clarity. To see life honestly is to know the dangers, the failures, the humiliations that stalk you in every shadow. To be naive and step forward is not bravery. It is blindness. But to see the abyss for what it is and walk anyway, that is courage. That is the essence of strength. Do not wait for fear to leave you. It won't. Do not wait for the world to soften. It won't. The only true path is forward, teeth clenched, knowing exactly how much it could cost you. Exposure and growth. The formula is brutal and simple. Define the thing you fear. Break it down. Face it, not once, but over and over again. You will not suddenly find the world less dangerous. No, you will discover that you are more dangerous. You will not become less afraid. You will become braver. When the challenge is chosen, willingly, your body, your mind, your spirit operate differently. Not like prey hiding in the grass, but like a warrior charging into battle. The stress does not break you. It forges you. You move from survival to dominance. The adventure of the unknown. Every step into the unknown is an act of defiance. It is rebellion against despair. That is why people who dare to journey, whether across lands or into their own inner shadows, return changed. The act of facing chaos is the tonic that makes life bearable. It is the only antidote to those moments when you wake at 4 a.m. and wonder what the point of all this suffering is. When you face yourself in the mirror and see not a coward, not a victim, but a human who moved forward despite it all, you will have earned the only self-respect that matters. Not words, not empty affirmations. Proof. Proof carved into your very bones by the fire you endured. Now, hearing all of this means nothing if it stays as words. The world doesn't bend to ideas alone. It bends to action. You cannot simply think about courage. You must train it into your bones. If you want to walk forward into the storm instead of being broken by it, you need a framework, a path you can follow when everything in you screams to run. What follows is not theory. It is a 6-step plan to take fear, anxiety, and despair and forge them into the fuel of courage. A system you can use daily to make sure that when life bares its teeth, you don't flinch. You move, you endure, you grow stronger. Step 1. Name the enemy. Fear has power because it hides in the shadows. Anxiety festers because it has no face. Depression strangles because it whispers from the dark corners of your mind, nameless and shapeless. The first law of battle is simple. Identify your enemy. Because what remains undefined remains unconquerable. Think about it. How often have you felt the weight of dread without even knowing why? You wake up with heaviness in your chest, a shadow clinging to you. But when you try to explain it, it slips through your fingers. That's the trick of fear. As long as it stays vague, it becomes infinite. It cannot be measured, and so it cannot be fought. It surrounds you, fills the air, and crushes you under its weight. That ends here. You do not get to walk forward until you drag your fears into the light and stare them down. Naming the enemy is not an intellectual exercise. It is war strategy. You take the abstract fog of despair and hammer it into specific targets. You go from "I'm just anxious" to "I'm afraid I'll lose my job, I'll disappoint my family, I'll never be good enough." You go from "I feel like a failure" to "I'm afraid I'll waste my life, die forgotten, and leave nothing behind." This isn't weakness. This is reconnaissance. This is gathering intelligence before the battle begins. A general who charges blindly into war without knowing who he's fighting is not brave. He's stupid. And you are not stupid. You are building yourself into a warrior. Warriors map the terrain. They study their adversaries. They know the weapons aimed at them. Then, and only then, do they strike. So how do you do it? You sit in silence and you write it down. All of it. Every shadow, every dread, every detail. Don't censor yourself. Don't soften the words to make them more comfortable. Be ruthless. If you are terrified of death, write it. If you are terrified of being abandoned, betrayed, humiliated, or left alone in the dark, write it. Drag the demons out of your skull and trap them on paper where they can't multiply in silence. And here's the truth. Once the fears are named, they will not vanish. The world is still dangerous. Your life is still fragile. You are still vulnerable. But when you name them, you take back ground. They stop being shadows in every corner, and they start being specific enemies with weaknesses. They become something you can point to and say, "That is the threat. That is what I am preparing for." And the act of naming itself gives you a strange power. You are no longer the prey, running blind in the dark. You are the hunter, tracking your adversary with precision. Do not underestimate this step. People spend years running from problems they cannot even describe. They anesthetize themselves with distractions, drown in substances, scroll their lives away, all to avoid facing the question, what am I really afraid of? That is why they remain powerless. They fight shadows, and shadows always win. But when you name the enemy, the battlefield changes. Anxiety loses its infinite reach and collapses into specific fears you can confront. Depression stops being a suffocating fog and becomes a set of thoughts and lies you can dismantle. The feeling of being crushed by everything transforms into the realization that you are actually being crushed by a handful of specific threats that can be fought one at a time. That is why this step is the foundation. Without it, every other action is wasted energy. You cannot break the monster into pieces if you haven't first given it shape. You cannot confront what you have not named. You cannot record proof of bravery when you don't even know what battle you are fighting. So I challenge you. Tonight, before you let sleep drag you down into the same restless cycle, take a pen, take a notebook, and write. Write every fear, every anxiety, every shadow that stalks you. Give them names. Give them shape. And when you finish, do not look at that page as weakness. Look at it as your battle map. Look at it as the moment you stopped running blind and decided to fight with clarity. The world will not become less dangerous. Death will not disappear. Loss will still come. But you will face it armed, prepared, and ready. And that is the first step in becoming unstoppable. Step 2. Break the monster into pieces. Once you've named the enemy, you will see it for what it is. Enormous. A beast towering above you, fangs bared, its shadow stretching so wide it seems to blot out the sky. This is why so many never fight back. They name their fear, and then they freeze. They see the size of it and convince themselves it cannot be beaten. But here is the truth. No monster is ever as invincible as it first appears. What looks like one unstoppable giant is really a collection of smaller, weaker parts. The mistake is trying to face the whole beast at once. That is suicide. That is despair. The way to win is to break it down, to carve it into pieces so small that each one can be confronted and conquered. Think about the weight of failure. Say you fear wasting your life. That's too vast, too heavy to carry. But underneath that fear are smaller ones. Missing deadlines, avoiding risk, procrastinating, hiding your talents, refusing opportunities. Those are battles you can fight today. You can't defeat failure in one strike, but you can choose to not waste today. You can choose to finish one task. You can choose to silence one excuse. Each cut weakens the monster. This is the secret. The overwhelming becomes manageable when broken apart. The impossible becomes possible when you slice it into steps. You take the infinite fog of dread and hammer it into a list of specific actions. Suddenly, instead of staring at a mountain that stretches beyond the clouds, you see a series of stones laid out before you, each one a step. The mountain doesn't shrink, but now you know the path. And yes, this requires humility. It requires you to accept that you cannot win every battle at once. It requires you to start small when your pride wants to leap into greatness. But pride is the chain that keeps you frozen. Pride says, if I can't fix everything now, I won't start at all. Pride is cowardice disguised as strength. True warriors know the power of patience. They know the strength of gradual victory. They bleed the monster out, piece by piece, cut by cut, until it can no longer stand. So how do you do this? You take what you wrote down in step 1, all the fears, the shadows, the anxieties, and you divide them. You carve them into the smallest, most actionable problems possible. If you fear rejection, break it down. I am afraid to make the phone call. I am afraid to send the email. I am afraid to ask the question. Now those are battles you can fight. Small, specific, concrete. And when you face them, you do not tell yourself, this one small action doesn't matter. You understand that every action is a strike against the larger beast. Every email sent, every phone call made, every step forward is a blade cutting through its armor. The monster falls in fragments. This is the strategy the masses refuse to adopt. They see the enormity of life's chaos and drown themselves in denial, numbing, distraction. They never learn the art of reduction, and so the monster devours them whole. But not you. You are learning to dismantle it. You are learning to reduce infinite despair into finite tasks. You are learning the discipline of breaking impossibility into possibility. And here's the paradox. The smaller the steps, the greater your momentum. Conquer one, then the next, then the next. Soon your fear of the beast weakens, not because it shrank, but because you grew. You proved, with every small strike, that you are capable of making progress in a world that wants you paralyzed. That is how courage is built. Not by waiting for the fear to disappear, not by fantasizing about one decisive battle. Courage is forged by cutting the monster down piece by piece, until the giant that once seemed eternal is reduced to nothing but bones at your feet. So break the monster. Do not let its size intimidate you. Slice it into parts so small they insult you, and then crush them. This is how warriors win. Not with one glorious charge into the abyss, but with relentless, patient, disciplined cuts, until the abyss itself begins to retreat. This is the art of control. This is the way forward. Step 3. Choose to confront, not to hide. Here is the brutal truth. Life will never stop throwing stress at you. The pressure will not disappear. The tragedies will not relent. You will be tested, day after day, whether you choose it or not. The only real decision you have, the only control, is whether you pick up the challenge willingly or wait until it crushes you. Most people hide. They convince themselves that avoidance is survival. They dodge the phone call, put off the decision, numb themselves with distractions. But what they don't understand is this. When you refuse to face the monster still comes. You just meet it weaker, unprepared, with your back turned. And in that position, you are guaranteed to be devoured. Avoidance is poison disguised as relief. You tell yourself, I'll deal with it tomorrow. And for a moment, the pressure lifts. But behind that moment, the fear multiplies. The anxiety deepens. The problem grows fangs while you sleep. And when you wake, it is heavier, darker, sharper than before. You think you're buying time, but you're really selling your strength. The warrior knows better. The warrior understands that the stressor cannot be avoided. It can only be embraced. When you choose to confront the danger voluntarily, something changes inside you. The fear doesn't vanish, but it transforms. The body stops firing the system of prey, the frantic defensive panic that drains your energy, devours your will, and burns you out. Instead, it triggers the system of approach, of challenge. The same stress becomes fuel. The same fear becomes fire. This is not philosophy. This is biology. When the burden is chosen, your mind and body respond with strength instead of collapse. You engage the circuitry of forward motion, the machinery of growth. You stop bracing for impact and start leaning into it, absorbing it, mastering it. What was once a crushing weight becomes the very resistance that forges you stronger. But this choice must be conscious. It must be deliberate. You cannot drift into confrontation. You must claim it. Every morning, every moment, you must declare, I will face what others hide from. I will pick up the weight before it buries me. I will choose the battlefield. This is the difference between prey and predator, between victim and warrior, between being crushed by life and carving your way through it. And yes, it is terrifying. To step forward voluntarily into pain, into chaos, into danger, everything in your body will scream to turn away. But remember this, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to face it anyway. And every time you do, you transform. Every time you step willingly into the storm, you teach your mind and body that you are not prey. You are not fragile. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are the one who chooses to engage. Think of it like fire. If you run from it, it consumes you. If you step toward it, if you learn to hold it in your hands, it becomes a weapon, a light, a source of power. Fear is the same. Avoid it, and it destroys you. Confront it, and it becomes yours to wield. So here's the command. Stop waiting to be forced. Stop letting life dictate the terms of battle. Seek the fight. When fear rises, run toward it. When the weight looms, pick it up. When the challenge appears, step forward and claim it before it claims you. This is the dividing line between the broken and the unbreakable. The broken wait to be cornered. The unbreakable walk into the corner willingly, fists raised, ready to strike. One dies screaming. The other grows stronger with every clash. Choose to confront. Every day, every hour, every moment. Stop hiding, stop retreating, because the world will not stop hunting you. You can either meet it on your knees or on your feet with fire in your eyes. The choice is yours. Step 4. Step into the unknown, daily. The unknown terrifies people. That's why they cling to routines that rot their spirit, jobs that crush their soul, relationships that suffocate them. They'd rather stay in the cage they know than face the wilderness they don't. Safety becomes their coffin. Predictability becomes their prison. But here's the truth. The unknown is not your enemy. It is your proving ground. It is the forge that burns weakness away and reveals the steel beneath. If you avoid it, you decay. If you step into it, you evolve. Understand this. Every day, the unknown waits for you. The uncomfortable conversation you keep avoiding, the decision you keep delaying, the skill you refuse to learn because you might look foolish, the risk you won't take because you might fail. That's the unknown. And every time you retreat, every time you say not today, you carve a little more weakness into your bones. The warrior does the opposite. The warrior seeks the unknown daily, not recklessly, not naively, but intentionally. Because every step into the unfamiliar builds strength. Every day you embrace uncertainty, you grow more capable of handling the chaos that life hurls at you. You cannot train courage in theory. You cannot learn bravery by reading about it. You forge it only by doing, by stepping where you cannot see the ground. This doesn't require monumental acts. You don't need to leap off cliffs every day. You need to train your spirit in increments. Push yourself into small unknowns constantly. So when the great unknown comes, the death of someone you love, the collapse of a dream, the chaos of disaster, you are ready. It will not be the first time you've stood in the dark. Think of it like sharpening a blade. Every day you expose yourself to friction, discomfort, resistance, and every day you come out sharper. Speak up when you'd rather stay silent. Volunteer when you'd rather shrink back. Try the skill you know you'll be bad at. Walk into the room where you feel you don't belong. Make this a habit, not an accident, not a rare event, but a discipline. Because here's the paradox. The more often you enter the unknown, the less it owns you. You stop seeing it as chaos, and you start seeing it as opportunity. Where others see a void, you see a battlefield. Where others feel panic, you feel anticipation. The unknown becomes not something to fear, but something to hunger for. And when you live this way, people will not understand you. They will call you reckless, arrogant, obsessed. But what they really mean is this. You are doing what they cannot. You are facing the storms they hide from. You are training in arenas they never dare to enter. They fear the unknown because they have never touched it. You hunger for it because it has forged you. This is not about thrill-seeking. This is about becoming unshakable. You practice daily so that when life throws you into darkness, you do not flinch. You do not collapse. You do not beg for rescue. You stand. You fight. You advance. So ask yourself, where are you hiding? What is the unknown you've been avoiding? And how can you step into it today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. The unknown is the only place where transformation is possible. The familiar will keep you alive. The unknown will make you powerful. Step into it. Daily. Make it ritual. Make it habit. Make it who you are. Because the warrior who walks into the dark willingly becomes the only one who can carry the light when everyone else is blind. Step 5. Record proof of your bravery. Courage fades if you don't anchor it. You can face down fear today, step into the unknown, and feel invincible for a moment. But tomorrow the doubt creeps back in. By the time the night comes, you'll wonder if it even mattered. That is why most people slip back into weakness. They fight once, but they never build evidence. And without evidence, their victories vanish like smoke. This is why you must record proof of your bravery. Not in your head. Your head is a liar. It forgets your strength and remembers only your failures. You must carve your victories into something real. Write them down. Track them. Build a record of every moment you moved forward despite the fear. Every strike you landed against the monster. Every step you took into the unknown. This isn't vanity. This is ammunition. Because the war isn't just fought out there. It's fought inside you. At 4 a.m., when you wake with the weight of despair crushing your chest, your mind will whisper, "What's the point? You're weak. You've never done enough. You'll never win." And in that moment, words of affirmation will not save you. Empty pep talks won't silence the darkness. What will save you is proof. Cold, undeniable evidence that you have fought before, and you will fight again. Imagine opening a notebook, a log, a record where each page screams back at you. You did not run. You did not hide. You faced it. That is a weapon against despair. That is the antidote to the lie that you are powerless. Proof silences the voices that say you can't. Proof says, "Here are the scars. Here are the battles. Here is the evidence that you are stronger than you think." Do not underestimate this. Warriors throughout history carved their victories into stone, sang them into songs, painted them into walls, because they knew memory alone was not enough. They knew the mind forgets. They knew the enemy inside would try to erase their strength. So they left records. They built monuments. They created proof that outlasted their doubts. You must do the same. And don't tell yourself that the victories are too small to record. That is the trap of the weak. It was just a phone call. It was just speaking up. It was just one workout. No, it was a battle. It was resistance. It was proof that you moved forward when every part of you wanted to stay down. Small victories are the stones that build the fortress. Dismiss them, and you leave yourself defenseless. Record them, and you create a wall no storm can topple. This practice is more than just journaling. It is self-weaponization. You are documenting your transformation in real time. You are building an archive of resilience. Every line written is a blade in your arsenal, a shield you can raise when the darkness comes. Because it will come. The nights of despair, the mornings of hopelessness, the days when the weight of life feels unbearable. They will come. And when they do, you must be ready to answer. Not with excuses, not with vague memories, with proof. Proof that you are not a coward. Proof that you are not broken. Proof that you have faced fear before and will face it again. This step is not optional. It is survival. If you fail to record proof of your bravery, you will lose sight of who you are becoming. You will forget the progress you've made. You will slip back into the trap of believing you are the same fragile creature you were before you began this path. But if you build this archive, if you gather your evidence relentlessly, you will carry into every battle the undeniable knowledge that you have already won before, and you will win again. So start today. Pick up the pen. Record the proof. Build your arsenal. Because the war inside never ends, and when it comes for you in the dark hours, you'll need weapons that cannot be argued with. Proof is your weapon. Proof is your shield. Proof is what will keep you standing when the world tries to convince you to fall. Step 6. Become the warrior. Habitually. You can name the enemy. You can break the monster down. You can confront instead of hide. You can step into the unknown. You can even record proof of your bravery. But if you treat these steps as isolated events, you will always risk slipping back into weakness. One victory does not make you a warrior. One moment of courage does not transform your identity. If you want lasting strength, you must make it who you are. You must ingrain courage into habit. Understand this. Courage is not a performance. It is not something you do once for applause or recognition. It is a way of living. If you wait for the big moment to prove yourself, you will fail. Because the big moment never arrives for those who wait. It crushes them instead. The warrior is not built in the spotlight. The warrior is built in the daily grind, in the silent choices no one else sees, in the habits repeated until they burn themselves into your bones. This is the final step, transformation into identity. You stop asking, "What should I do when I feel afraid?" And instead, you become the kind of person who always moves forward despite fear. You stop asking, "How do I face the unknown?" And instead, you live in a way where facing the unknown is automatic. You stop thinking of courage as an event and start thinking of it as your default setting. Habits create destiny. Every repeated action wires your brain, engraves patterns into your mind, and builds the person you are becoming. If you avoid, you build the identity of a coward. If you confront, daily, you build the identity of a warrior. And identity is far more powerful than intention. Anyone can intend to be strong. Few can live it so relentlessly that it becomes undeniable. Think about what this means. When fear comes, and it always will, you will not waste energy debating with yourself. You will not bargain. You will not justify retreat. Your body will know. Your mind will know. You will step forward because that is who you are. The choice will already be made because the choice is your identity. This is why habits are everything. You must train yourself to respond to fear with forward motion until it becomes instinct. Every day is an opportunity to reinforce this identity. Every day, you either sharpen your blade or let it dull. Every decision is a brick in the fortress you are building, or a crack in its walls. The discipline is relentless repetition. The payoff is invincibility. And here is the secret. Once courage becomes habitual, you stop living for survival and start living for expansion. You no longer spend energy fighting yourself, wrestling with hesitation, doubting your ability. You free that energy for creation, for leadership, for building the life that lesser men can only dream about. You stop surviving in chaos and start bending chaos to your will. But you must commit fully. Half measures won't ingrain the habit. Occasional acts of bravery won't burn it into your bones. It has to be every day, every choice, every confrontation. This is the difference between playing warrior and becoming one. Playing warrior is temporary. Becoming warrior is eternal. So ingrain it. Make it habitual. Build the patterns that make courage your default. Until the day comes when you no longer even recognize the old self. The timid version. The hesitant version. The one who hid in the shadows. You bury that version through repetition, through discipline, through relentless forward motion. That is the transformation. That is the final step. Courage is no longer something you do. It is something you are. And when the world looks at you, When fear claws at you, when chaos rises against you, they will see it. They will know. This is no ordinary person. This is no victim. This is no prey. This is a warrior, carved from habit, sharpened by discipline, unstoppable by nature. That is who you must become. That is who you will become if you live the habit daily. Now you see the path. It is not easy, but it is simple. 6 steps that, if lived daily, will transform you from prey into predator, from victim into warrior. First, you name the enemy. You drag the shadows out of hiding and give them form. Then you break the monster into pieces, reducing the impossible into battles you can actually fight. You choose to confront, not to hide, refusing to wait for life to corner you. You step into the unknown every single day, training your soul to thrive in chaos. You record proof of your bravery, building an arsenal of evidence that silences doubt when it comes. And finally, you make courage habitual, transforming bravery from an occasional act into your very identity. This is not theory. This is survival. The world will never stop being dangerous. Life will never stop being tragic. But you will stop being fragile. You will stop being prey. Understand this. Most will never walk this path. They will cling to comfort, hide from the unknown, drown themselves in distraction, and call it living. They will wither, and they will fall. But not you, because you have chosen the harder road, the road of confrontation, transformation, and relentless forward motion. And when the nights come, those nights when despair whispers that everything is meaningless, you will not be empty-handed. You will have proof. You will have scars. You will have victories written in blood and ink. And you will know beyond all doubt that you are not weak. You are not powerless. You are the kind of human who moves forward despite fear, despite chaos, despite everything. That is what it means to live with honor. That is what it means to walk as a warrior in a world that wants you broken. So take these 6 steps. Burn them into your mind. Practice them until they become second nature. Until courage is not something you summon. It is simply who you are. The world is dangerous. The world is brutal. The world is merciless. But so are you.